Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second shelf. And today I have a tag for you. Yes, the miracles never end. I did another tag, and of course, I forgot who tagged me, but I saw this tag. It's the A to Z hot or not tag. So it's a list of prompts according to the alphabet, and you just have to tell you all whether you think that's hot or not. And the tag was originally created by Greg from Another Bibliophile Reads, and I saw it recently done by Sandy over at Miss Reads a Lot, and that reminded me that I think I was tagged, but maybe not. But it's a fun tag, so we're going to do it anyway. So the alphabet, I have it on my trusted old iPhone here. So A is for audiobooks. Yes, hot, more or less. Depends. You can already see the first question. I'm not doing the tag as it's supposed to be done, but we're just gonna roll with it, right? I do audiobooks, nonfiction, a lot. And I really love it. I have always an audiobook on the go that I listen to mainly at night or when I'm walking or something. I can't multitask very well, even with an audiobook. So when I'm doing something really like cooking or I can't listen and cook. It's just, I mean, I know women are supposed to be good at multitasking, but I can't. But I love a nonfiction audiobook. Fiction, I can't. It's the speed. If I increase the speed to a speed that would suit me, the voice irritates me, the kind of, very fast voice. So fiction doesn't work, but nonfiction for sure. B is for Bildungsroman. And that's kind of a coming of age, but then the German, and I mean, I'm German. So, of course, yes, hot, Bildungsroman. Thomas Mann, Magic Mountain was probably the first one I read, but also, Little Women or Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird. That type of book. And especially if it's a bit heavy on the philosophy part, then yes, I'm a true German, so I like that. C, children's books. No, I'm not a child. I don't have children. I have no children in my surroundings, so I don't read, buy, or even know about what is hot when it comes to children's book. D is for digital. Yes, for sure. But also, like with the audiobook, it depends. I definitely appreciate that we have ebooks, also because I can take thousands of books with me with this or the Kindle or my iPad, and it's readily available. Hopefully, also not too expensive. And if I extend it to things like Script, where you can have an ebook right there with your subscription. I definitely read, I would say maybe a third of the books that I read are ebooks, but I still love the experience of touching a physical book. So it will never replace for me the feeling of a library. No, but I use ebooks a lot. Also, again, for nonfiction, it's really handy, I feel, because you can have notes and marks in the book. So yeah, definitely hot. E is for experimental. I'm trying. I push myself sometimes to read stuff that is would be called experimental, even though, to be honest, I don't even really know what it means, but that has kind of this flavor to it. Experimental books like Kathy Acker or something. Because I feel for me as a reader, and that doesn't mean everybody has to do it, but for me as a reader, it's at times good if I push myself a little. Also because it helps me develop as a writer. So Yeah, but it's more warm than hot, maybe, if that's a good explanation. And the same goes, nah, even worse. F is for fantasy. I'm trying, but it's hard. I can't really get into the very straightforward fantasy like R.R. Martin or books like that. I tried Robin Hobbs, read the first three. Nice, but it's not. I mean, as a child, I did not like fairy tales. They bored me. Fantasy are fairy tales for grown-ups, basically. And it has to be really something else. Even Le Guin with the Earthsea series, it just did not grab me. I mean, I can read it. And the Le Guin is a buddy read. As you know, Adam and Adam from Memento Mori, we're making our way through Le Guin's work. So I think we read 3 or 4 books of the Earthsea series. And it's okay, but I would never gravitate towards that on my own. But I'm still looking for fantasy that works for me. So I'm not giving up on it, but it's definitely not hot. No. And the same goes for G, graphic novel. I read, I think, one every year. The first book I always pick for each year is a graphic novel. And I enjoyed. I read this one you see over here, Red Rosa, which is not a graphic novel, but a graphic nonfiction biography of Rosa Luxemburg. I really enjoyed that. And I read a couple of them, and sometimes I even read a second one during the year. But it's also not the ones I read or I read, I would say are hot, but I don't pick them up like every month or so. And again, as a child, I didn't read comics at all. Not even Asterix or Mickey Mouse, or they bored me. It bored me. Yeah, I don't know. And it's not going well. H is for horror. No, not hot. Again, boredom. I am the kind of person, if I watch a horror movie like Alien or I don't know, some other typical horror movie, I can't sleep for a week. It really scares the shit out of me. So I'm not going to watch those films. If I read a book with the same story, it doesn't do anything for me. On the contrary, I think it's really boring. So I'm just weird, and horror is not hot. No. I is for inspirational. I don't quite know what that means, but for me, reading in general is inspirational, always. So yes, hot. J is for journalism. Yes, nonfiction journalism, I think is fantastic. If it's well done, it's fantastic. I really like it. I recently talked about a book by Asma Al Ghul, A Rebel in Gaza, which is a combination of journalism and memoir. But we're not, we're not that strict with the rules. So if it's a topic that interests me, Dope Sick by Beth Macy, about the opioid crisis. I recently read and really loved. And she's a journalist for a local paper. It was extremely well researched. It was well told. So yes, hot. Kitsch has a popular or sentimental appeal. Oh yes, absolutely. Like I said, I'm German. So kitsch, if it's well done, if it's the kind of kitsch that doesn't take itself seriously, if it's like camp kitsch, if you don't know what that is, Susan Sontag's famous essay about camp, this kind of twist on the kitschy stuff. But if it takes itself seriously, if you have a kitschy painting and the painter is telling me this is serious art, no, then it's not hot. But if it has this kind of tongue-in-cheek quality to it, yes, then I definitely like it. L is for library, and it would be hard if I didn't have the disadvantage of living in Germany and reading mainly 99.9% English books, books in English, not necessarily written in English, but books in English. There is no big, I mean, we have a really good library here, even with in every area we have a library of the city, and they can order stuff and it comes within 2 days or so. But their main portfolio is German. So I have a hard time finding books. It's now getting better because they actually arrived in the 21st century, and we now have Overdrive, Libby, and there are more English books there, but also, for instance, only fiction. I have the hardest time to finding nonfiction, even on Libby, but I borrow more now because we have Overdrive. So, and I hope it will improve at some time. M is for mystery. Yes, hot, definitely. I love mysteries. And I include in mysteries everything, whether it's a thriller, whether it's a historical fiction mystery, or whether it's noir or your police procedural. I just love that genre. I mean, as a writer, I wrote mystery myself, only 3 books, one small series, but I always loved it. I love the challenge. It's the challenge in the sense that I love puzzles. You know, I didn't love fairy tales when I was a kid, but I always loved puzzles. So I love the idea that the author challenges you to find out who did it. That's the one thing. But I also love the cozier mysteries as, you know, palate cleansers or just relief of tension, just entertainment with not needing too much brain power, especially when I'm stressed or when I have to work a lot and I want to read something, but not something that is too challenging for me. So I love that aspect, that you can pick stuff like that. And I really enjoy mysteries like the Donna Leon series, the Inspector Brunetti. I learned so much about life in Italy and Venice in particular through that series. So a good mystery series can also not only tackle topics that are very topical, if they are, you know, present day mysteries, but it can also really give you context about a certain setting. And a setting is one of the big things I appreciate if it's well done in mysteries in particular. And is nonfiction. Yes, of course, it's hot. I read about a third, sometimes more than a third of what I read in a year is nonfiction. And I have my favorite categories. I love memoirs. I love narrative nonfiction. I discovered nonfiction about nature through Heidi from my reading life and Doris from Audiobooks, because they have this book club, book naturalists book club, where they pick one book a month or an author. I really discovered that, like Hope Jahren, Lab Girl. I probably would have not read it if it hadn't been for those 2 women. The combination of science and memoir. I love reading about physics. Yeah, I know, but I just think it's fascinating to read about that. So there are a couple of things that I'm not interested in. Military history, I hardly read biographies because, as I've said on this channel many times, I feel that most biographers can't tell a story and it's boring. So I have my favorites genres, but within nonfiction, but I think nonfiction is fantastic. O is for Omnibus. If we include also box sets, because Omnibus is a bind up, I don't have any of those. But that's also because Omnibus is often comic books or graphics novels or stuff like that. And I don't read that much, as I already told you. But if we include box sets, I buy them if I have read all in a series. For instance, Becky Chambers. Her series, science fiction series, I really love, but I'm not committing to a series up front. So, yeah. P is for poetry. I don't want to say anything. I try. I loved poetry when I was younger, and I only read German. But it's still hard for me to read poetry in another language than my mother tongue. But we're getting there. We're getting there. Q is for quests, when the protagonist goes on a quest. Well, I mean, your typical quest, fantasy quest, I'm not that interested, so it's more lukewarm. But if it's a quest that is less typical, finding out something about yourself, often in memoir form, I like it, but it's not something that I would call hot. Like I said, more lukewarm. R is for romance. No, not anymore. I read a lot of Regency romances when I was younger, and I loved those. But I quit reading romance, I don't know, for no particular reason. It's not because I think romance, that I have a high nose and the romance is not worthy. Absolutely not. It's just something that I stopped reading. And maybe I'll return to it at some point. Who knows? S is for science fiction. Yes, absolutely hot. I already mentioned Becky Chambers, Ursula Le Guin, of course. I love sci-fi if it's well done. And again, like with the mysteries, broad selection, dystopian, or the space opera is maybe my least favorite, unless it's Becky Chambers, but I definitely love a good science fiction. Translation, T. Yes, I already said I read books in English, but I really try to read books from countries that don't speak English. And it's about a third of my reading, less, 20%, I would say, of my reading. U is for Übermensch, the Superman or the extraordinary human. Well, I am German and I read Nietzsche, but no, most of the time it doesn't work for me, so it's not hot. V is for Victorian. Yes, hot, but for some reason I read it during Victober, but I hardly ever pick up a Victorian novel, a novel written by a Victorian author, outside of Victober. So maybe I have to, think about that. W is for Western. No, not my thing at all. Yeah. Y, young adult? No, not my thing at all. I very rarely find a young adult that I find really interesting. And I'm not the age group. I mean, come on, I'm 63, so no, I don't read young adult. And Z is for zeitgeist, spirit or mood of the times. Yes, if it's well done. Sandy said something about, it's maybe too close, and I feel that too. Sometimes, like I read a couple of books, Louise Erdrich's Sentence, her last book was set during COVID. Didn't quite work for me, but when I revisited a year later, it was better. So if it's too topical, it sometimes just doesn't work for me that well. Anyway, that was the A to Z tag, hot or not. And I tag everybody who is watching, because this is a really fun tag to do, and you don't need to pull off a lot of books. So I don't know, all my booktube friends, Heidi, Kim, Terry, Sandy did it, Doris, Karen, if you want to do it, fine, and everybody else, it would be fantastic to have your hot or not take on the alphabet. This was it. Thank you very much for watching. I want to keep it under 20 minutes. Looking forward to your comments, and I'll talk to you all soon in the next one.